Good morning, everyone, and great to see you. Happy Friday. Today is April 4th, 2025, and we are here for our legislative committee meeting for the Colorado Forest Health Council. I am the chair of this committee, Larimer County Commissioner Joy Shad-McNally. I call this meeting to order, and if you wouldn't mind, Courtney, I'd love to do roll call, and let's do that. Thank you.
Yes. Okay, Katie McGrath Novak. Looks like Katie's not here at the moment. Pat Dorsey. Hold on. Just want to double check something. I think I have the right agenda or group of people, but Christina Bury.
Morning.
Morning, Christina. Commissioner Jody Shaddock-McNally.
Present.
Morning, Commissioner. Yes, Mark Morgan. Okay, I have the right list.
Yes.
Morning, Mark. Julie Stencil.
Good morning.
I see you, Julie. Good morning. Commissioner Veronica Medina.
Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioner. And Allison Lurch.
Good morning.
Good morning, Allison. And Samantha Albert let us know that she wasn't going to be able to make it today. She isn't feeling well, so I have her on the list here as excused. Let's see. So we need 5 for quorum left. And we do have quorum met, which is great. So.
And Courtney, Pat Dorsey just joined. I don't know if you saw me.
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful. Thanks, Pat.
I was just getting ready to say that. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Courtney, and let's go ahead and get rolling. Let's start with our first item of business is to approve the minutes from March 7th. Did anyone have any changes or see anything that needed to be adjusted or wanted to be added? If not, I would welcome a motion to approve the minutes as written for March 7th.
I'll move to approve.
Do you have a
Second.
second? Great. First and second, all those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Is there anyone opposed? Okay, great. Let's move on to the next item, which we're going to add a little something different and extra today. We're going to talk also about some federal stuff too. So I'm going to turn this over to James, I believe. Is that correct, James? You're going to do the updates?
I can do the state things.
Okay. And then Courtney, maybe and I have some things I can share from my March travels to DC. So
Okay.
if you want to do the state things, and then I think Courtney and Allison maybe are going to do the federal ones. And then I will to share some of my escapades in
Okay,
DC at the
perfect.
beginning of March. So go ahead, James.
Perfect.
Thanks.
So to be quite frank, not much has gone on, at least legislatively. They have been focused entirely and completely on the budget. It was budget week in the House. It was introduced on Monday morning. It went through its first appropriations committee meeting on Tuesday, and it was debated. It was debated on Wednesday on second reading. There were about 61 amendments. None of them were of note for this committee. And then it finally passed its final third reading in the Senate yesterday. And so we'll start that whole process again next week, starting in the House. With that budget, some things to note are we at the State Forest Service have about $10 million in line items. $8 million of that is specifically in our fur worm. We were asked to try and cut $2 million from that early on in the year, and we successfully were able to argue against that. So our fur worm dollars remain whole. So do our healthy forest vibrant community dollars. So we're going to get that full $10 million allocation as the State Forest Service. The other thing that I wanted to touch base on specifically with the budget is because the bills that we're watching, House Bill 1078, the Forestry and Firefighter Workforce and Education Program, that was a legislative recommendation from this committee last year. And then Senate Bill 7, which is increasing prescribed burns. And then I believe we're watching Senate Bill 11 tangentially. This is more so on fire detection and cameras. All of those bills cost money. And when I worked at the state capitol, there were times where we would give each chamber $10 million to pass bills that the legislators were writing that year. This year, we are in $1 billion deficit. The Joint Budget Committee were able to get that balance, the budget balanced, but that means that they only gave 7.5 million total for both chambers to spend. And so it's going to be a very tight year for anything to pass that's going to have a fiscal note, even if it's the $250,000 that the prescribed burn is asking for, much less the $1.2 million that the forestry and firefighter workforce and education program is going to be looking for. So that's basically where we are. The bills that we are watching are still just held up in the Appropriations Committee, both in the House and in the Senate. Once that budget passes, which will be next week. It'll either be Thursday or Friday, depending on how long the House tends to filibuster. But as those start to move, usually the majority party will start to prioritize the bills that they want to have funding, and then they'll start moving those. And then anything when there's no money left, everything else will start to unfortunately die in those appropriations committees. So that's kind of what we're looking at, is a $7 million kind of playing around money. And that has to go towards people's bills like education and healthcare and a bunch of other things. So it will be a very, very tough contest this year. That's all I wanted to bring to this committee, since everything is going to be budget related. But if there's any other questions, I'm happy to answer those right now too.
Thank you, James. And I just had one other before we take questions. I wanted to add, I testified on House Bill 2511. I should know these, 1182, which is the wildfire risk modeling, transparency, and accountability tool, which is kind of related to this committee. It's about helping for the purposes of underwriting homeowners and other property insurance. The bill requires insurers use a wildfire risk model, a catastrophic model, and a combination of models for scoring scoring method to adhere to specific requirements concerning the sharing of information with the insurance commissioner of the Commissioner of Insurance, Mr. Conway, and the public, and inclusion specific activities in this model, and providing notices to policyholders to provide transparency on why some of our folks are losing their insurance, or what they need to do to bring their insurance down, or what they need to do to get insurance. And so this is related to some of the wildfire mitigation and work for home hardening. And I just wanted to share that with you, that it's testified in the House and the Senate. It came out of the Senate unanimously out of the committee. The Finance Committee went on to consent agenda. It's been widely vetted and things. I know it's not directly related, but I think it's homeowners are doing, like in Larimer County, the home hardening or the defensible space and live wildfire ready. This is going to be able, they can get a certificate or use to take their insurance, and that should count towards helping with that. So this is kind of unique and innovative. Senator Cutter and I and some other commissioners and other folks have been kind of stakeholdering with this for over a year. And so there's another bill for Monday, the enterprise. So it's all kind of linked, and there are a bunch of steps to kind of help homeowners not face these catastrophic policy increases, but also not lose their homeowners. So related, but I just wanted to let you know that seems to be in a bipartisan way very supported. So with that, thanks, James, for all those updates. I know it's kind of not great news, but great news for you all and for Worm Holding, because I think that's really, really crucial to keep that. So great news for that. And Mr. Morgan, I see your hand is up.
Yes, Commissioner, I was trying to track what you were saying very carefully there, and you were moving pretty fast. But it seems to be related. There is a lot of situations right now within industry where industry is losing fire insurance on facilities that, especially targeted in Colorado and California, that they're losing their ability to insure facilities, commercial facilities that process wood. And so I was trying to see whether there was an overlap there, because that's going to be, that will affect the ability to utilize the material that we're going to have from our forest management activities. And a lot of people got a real rude surprise this year from their insurance carriers. And I don't know, did that come up at all, or is it just based on homeowners? I was trying to track, you were going fast there.
I apologize. I was just trying to not trying to quickly share it so I don't dominate the conversation. I don't know exactly if that covers wood industry businesses, but let me, I don't know, I will go back and ask that question. So how, you're talking about commercial businesses that are wood industry, if this also impacts commercial kind of businesses, if you show that you're doing certain things to protect your property from wildfire. So I can ask that question, and I don't know, since it's not one that we have supported or talked about, I don't know, staff can look into it, but I will ask those questions, Mr. Morgan, today, because I do have meetings after this with some of those groups that we have been, as an association of commissioners, supporting and partnering on. So let me ask that, and then I can share that with Courtney. Or since it's kind of something you and I could just talk about personally, I can just, since it's your business, I can get that information to you. So
Thank you.
does that help?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, any other questions for James? Lots of good news and some not unexpected disappointment. Let's say it that way.
It's going to be worse next year.
Yeah, I know. So that's something to think about. So let me just write this down. Okay. All right, let's move on. Allison and Courtney, you wanted to add some of these federal things on, and then I just thought I'd share some of my experiences talking about wildfire in the Capitol in March. So did you want to talk about some of the federal updates?
No, Jody, we're not prepared for federal updates today, but we do have on our agenda to talk about how this committee and the council might interact with federal legislation. So I think we'll just turn it over to you to talk about your time, and then we can transition to what we're prepared for.
Great. So kind of related, but we, and Commissioner Medina was also in DC at that time. But I spent a lot of time individually as a commissioner going and meeting with 3 congressional offices and 2 Senate's office, because Larimer County has 3 congressional offices, and I think we're the only county that does 2, 4, and 8. So we have Congressman Joe Neguse, Congresswoman Lauren Boebert, and Congressman Gabe Evans. Congressman Boebert and Evans, well, Evans is brand new, but Boebert's new to her new district. And so we met with both Senator Hickenlooper and Senator Bennett with one-on-ones to talk about some of the pauses on some of our federal funding. One of them was the wildfire defense grant that we have received for mitigation work. That was $9.7 million. And also some long-term, there was a long-term grant called the FLAP grant, which was doing some hardening and infrastructure improvements around Horsetooth Reservoir and Carter Lake Reservoir. And Horsetooth is one of the most, if not the #1 busiest reservoir in the state. So that's also kind of some of the work around the infrastructure and for lots of reasons. So that had been paused, even though we're supposed to start construction this summer. And we're getting ready to sign those contracts. And those both were are progressing forward. So after a lot of conversations, so I appreciate everyone's work, but I would say my conversations with them all have focused on the need for supporting wildfire efforts and partnerships and forest health, et cetera. So just wanted to share that. And I did that as an individual commissioner for Larimer County, but also talking as a commissioner, since we were as a group at our 3,100 counties were there in DC. That's how many are in the country. And we had a lot of conversations about some of those things. One, I serve on the Environment, Energy, and Land Use Steering Committee, and we usually have multiple resolutions in that committee. I mean, we don't really have a lot of consensus. We tend to be, it can be very contentious sometimes for some of those meetings. This one was uniquely only 3 resolutions, and we all were unanimous, and lots of friendly debate. They were on PFAS, which is the forever chemicals in our water, and making sure local governments don't get stuck with that. And I thought, the reason I bring this up is looking how we streamline or hope make NEPA more friendly and move quicker so we can get some of these projects done quicker. And so that was, I wanted to share that because that was unanimous and very, it was, you know, whether it's a hurricane or wildfires. And so usually we hear a lot from the southern states where, you know, talking about hurricanes, but we've been really pushing, like New Mexico and Colorado, trying to get the conversation to wildfire in the western states. So I thought it was well received, and I just wanted to share that has some, because of that committee will be voted on, and it will probably be supported by the National Association of Counties as a resolution to look at that. So I wanted to share that as well. So related, but just thought that was something that you should all know. There's a united voice in addressing how we can work together. So Commissioner Medina.
Thank you. I too, just to share a quick experience in DC, I was able to have a conversation with Congressman Jeff Hurd, along with a group of commissioners. But with my one-on-one time, I really spoke to him about the freezing of funds for Fire Adaptive, a nonprofit here in Archuleta County that do a lot of work across other counties. But we talked about that, and there was a lot of letters also from constituents and other groups that also made it to him. So fortunately, I'm happy to say that he was able to get over $1 million released in those funds for work that had already been completed. So that was a huge win for the Fire Adaptive Group, because they just really didn't know how they were going to continue on since that work had already been done and that money had already been spent. So they are looking forward to being able to move forward. But it was in part Congressman Jeff Hurd, that really helped push that through. So just wanted to let you know that.
Great, thank you. So, in other words, we all have been busy. Everybody on the screen, we have all been busy. But progress, I just want to say, it looks like, you know, when we bring some good information and data and conversations and share our stories and look to find common grounds, I think there's still lots of hope to advance these matters. So with that, any other questions for the group regarding the items on the agenda, on that part of the agenda? Okay, let's move on to the next one. And thank you all. I'm hoping next time I go to DC, it is, I see more of the outside than dark hallways. Let's see. So now we want to talk about our next steps for the Colorado Forest Health Council meeting coming up at the end of this month, and the General Assembly education event at the Capitol. So I think we'll just turn that over to Courtney, talking a little bit about the 27th and what we need to have ready. And I won't be able to be there in person. I'm going to have to I will be on the other side of the country, so I'm going to have to call in. So just want to give everybody that heads up. So Courtney, I'll let you proceed with kind of some updates for that.
Yeah. So the meeting is going to take place, well, the joint meeting will take place over 2 days, the 29th and 30th of April. And Commissioner Veronica Medina is very graciously hosting us in Archuleta County. The meeting itself will be on April 30th at the Board of County Commissioners office, and the day before, Tuesday the 29th in the afternoon, we're planning a tour. So it'll be really similar to the setup for Glenwood Springs, where people can show up the day before, attend the tour, stay the night, and wake up the next morning, attend the meeting, and then you'll have time to drive home after that. I'm working on still finalizing the agenda, and I think we were hoping that James, you know, we would have an agenda item for James to share legislative updates, sort of as you do so well, James. And I think you said you'll be able to attend in person too. So I'll work with you to make sure that fits well on your schedule.
Potentially, yes.
I'm sorry,
Okay.
Courtney. The university does have discretionary funding freeze right now. So we've actually been instructed to attend virtually.
Okay.
Apologies, but yeah.
Well, that makes sense. I feel like we're also, there's conversations all over the place about saving money too. So that makes sense. We'll happily have you virtually though too. And then there is an agenda item for, that's a good question. And maybe I'll touch base with Christina or James about that too. Offline. We also have an agenda item for the legislative committee, Jody. So I think it would still be great to have an update. I imagine this group, I'll leave it up to you how much time you think you'd like, because James will be giving the update on like where the bills are in the process. Maybe this group could talk about the legislative breakfast or other work that it's been doing, or maybe, start talking to the council about the next round of topics. So there is an agenda item for you there, Jody.
Yeah, and I think it should be more than 10 minutes, but I wanted to share that I think we said we would bring some updates for that one item that was about holding space for the pilot program for biomass stuff. I thought we were gonna bring back we had said in the meeting, we bring back some more details on what we were thinking with that. But knowing that maybe next year is gonna be worse than anything. So I just thought we at least, we have one more meeting before then, and maybe we can, I was going to bring some more, not details, but specifics, a little more firmer thing about that. We have a meeting on the 18th. And so I thought maybe we could look and maybe vote and bring that forward to the full council about what we thought that might look like, even if it's going to be something with funding. So, though I know it sounds like it's going to, I mean, we have those other recommendations don't have funding, but just technical things. But I think if that's how I remembered it. I've been kind of working on it with some more language, and so I thought we could bring that back and present it on the 18th and get a thumbs up, thumbs down, or some edits from you all. So does that sound okay?
Well, I also remember there was going to be a step where we read the state's biomass study, which I think still is not quite available. I almost feel like the legislative recommendation said sort of like contingent upon the state biomass study. We were going to pull some recommendations out of it.
Yeah.
And I believe it still is in progress. Or is it
and ours is done, and we've been presenting. So I was pulling some out that I would like to recommend from ours. I think Colorado State Forest Service has read through ours as well. So we can maybe, if we're not thinking we need some more time to digest and wait for the state, maybe we can just say we're waiting for the state. We could just make that point that we're still waiting for the state biomass to bring those recommendations. So, and then we're going to have a meeting just on firming that up. So I just remember we said we were going to probably in April, the next meeting, we thought we'd have the other study. So
let me read the recommendation again. I want to make sure we're following what we said we were going to do.
I've been thinking about that since that meeting, to be honest with you. While you're waiting, so the other thing I thought we would just have a quick update that we've reached out to the people who can help us set up the time and date, and we think it would just be a breakfast and maybe give something on a piece of paper looking like it starts at 7:30. It's in this part of the Capitol, or we think it'll be these two areas of the Capitol. We'll have food. We have had people offer to sponsor the food, and then we have the storyboards and just show how simple it is, and then also bring that idea from the other folks who thought they would maybe want to do an off-campus thing to kind of And I don't know what that looks like, but that would be separate, but that was something that a lot of other agencies wanted to maybe do together. And I don't know if that's still something you wanted to do, but that maybe that would be coordinated to have something later that evening offsite to educate, but that would be a separate endeavor. So I don't know if we wanted to still do that so that would be something, just an update on that. I think this is also something we were going to do. So I'm just trying to, and then have to be fully vetted out, but
Yeah, I think that's a great idea to at least update the council on the biomass recommendation, whether or not if the committee wants to clarify the recommendation right now, or if they want to wait for the state study. I feel like that's up to you all. Let's see what this says. I mean, I would say the recommendation is like points to the state biomass assessments. Maybe we can hear from Christina or James. I know you guys are in the very final stages of
Yeah, I
wrapping
think
that up.
we were anticipating sometime this spring. So hopefully in the next month or two.
so that would be, we can just say we're waiting still for the kind of the final analysis, and maybe we want to have a meeting to look at that and discuss it, and then look at other things and bring all the information together. So we can always just pause on that and just say we're still waiting for the full assessment and just give that update. So does that sound, I mean, I think my thing will be less than 10 minutes for sure then.
No, you can have as much time as you want, Jody. I think I have each committee talking for 20 minutes or something. You can have more than that if you need. We'll make room for whatever the committee needs. But I think, yeah, an update on this and then an update on the legislative breakfast sounds great. So we can coordinate to see how much time you'd like on the agenda for those items and anything else that we need to add.
Okay, great. Any other questions or thoughts on that? I'll try to put something down on paper that we can all look at on the 18th, and so you guys can add to it. Commissioner Medina.
Yes, thank you. So I get Christina and maybe even James about the encouragement to attend via Zoom when possible. I'm just gonna plug hard for Archuleta County because there's a lot of us that have been working really hard to make this a really fabulous meeting, not only just from the tour that we have planned, but a lot of even just showing how a lot of the money that has been given to Archuleta County for fire mitigation. We've got a couple of sites for our tour that we're going to be looking at with some different, and I can't think of the name that I want to say it's the 30 foot I want to say band, but I guess there's different prescriptions when there's fire mitigations. There's 30 and 35. I can't think of that last term. So maybe if one of you can chime in, if you know what I'm talking about. I can't think of that last word. Anyway, there's that. And then we had a fire a couple years ago, and because of the fire mitigation, it did not hit Archuleta County or the town of Pagosa. So we've got a fabulous tour, and we have wonderful food planned. And I'm also working with a couple of the hotels to get government rate, so it's not super expensive. And it's April and it's in our slow season, so perfect timing all around. So I just want to do a plug. So if you could maybe attend virtually another thing and come to Archuleta County, we would love to have you. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Pat?
Yeah, I'm gonna pile on a little bit there too. I know that travel to Southwest Colorado is often difficult and it's far from Denver, but it's also really important for our little corner of the state to feel like we're part of the bigger Colorado picture. And oftentimes we feel like we get left out. So I I don't mean to get weepy on all of you, but to those of you that can make it, I think it would make a whole bunch of difference to our little world down here.
And believe me, I would be there in a heartbeat, but I will be by Camp David at the National Emergency Management Training Center with about 50 people from Larimer County, as we brought different agencies to all train on our processes for emergency management and natural disasters. And it was, I didn't get to pick the date. We were invited to attend as a group, which is hard to do sometimes. And we were supposed to do it last year, but we had a thing going on called the Alexander Mountain Fire. And so it got canceled, and this is when it got rescheduled. And so, yeah, I'll be, and it's a pretty intense course. So I'll be, I'm making sure I can carve out to be at the meeting, but it's going to be, and it's still a lot of uncertainties because it is a federal program. So I'm just hoping that it all goes as we were told. So, otherwise I'd be there. So understand it's something I'm very sad, like to be there for sure. Okay, I saw, was there another hand up? Okay, great. So let's move on to the next item. So we're going to still meet on the 18th. I know it's a holiday. We're for some maybe a holiday, but we'll have our meeting. So let's see. Next item is, sorry, I'm trying to do two screens today. On the next topic about possible engagement for us, for engagement at the federal policy level. So now we're going to turn it over to Courtney and Allison, who had some great ideas. And I just heard someone's hand up. Sorry, I'm trying to do multiple screens today on my little computer. Katie.
Yeah, that's me. I'm sorry. I don't mean to interrupt. I wasn't sure if the Capitol Day was going to be a new topic. I just had a quick question about that. So you've been talking about like the main breakfast part and then like an offsite thing after. Is that offsite thing the thing that I had mentioned I was interested in, or is that something else? I know like me and a couple people from Fire Adapted Colorado and coalitions and collaboratives and others were interested in doing something with the Capitol Day, and then we had decided to keep it Forest Health Council. But now I'm wondering, is there opportunity to do the offsite thing? I just want to be clear. And if there's anyone else who is interested in that, who wants to shoot me an email so we can make sure that we're all coordinated, that would be awesome.
So we were approved, I think we talked about this last meeting, that the committee was approved by the council to do a legislative breakfast, and that we had to be very cautious that we were doing education for that breakfast, and that there were some great ideas. You all had talked about bringing other agencies in to do other activities that probably would be offsite. And so that would be probably something that the council can't do formally, because that's not what we were approved to do. But if other agencies wanted to come together and form a committee outside of the council, and anyone on the council could go as an individual and participate in that, it would, I just want to make sure that, you know, that was a cool idea. And if you guys want to still do that, you could coordinate. You know, that could be later in the day or a lunch hour thing or a dinner or right after a session dinner thing. Just wanted to make sure to honor those ideas, and that a lot of folks were still very excited about doing that for education. So I don't think we have a date yet, Courtney, right? Or yeah, go ahead, Courtney.
Yeah, I can give a little bit of an update from my conversations, both internally at DNR and also with, let me find her name, Julia Scanlon, who you've connected
Scanlon, yeah.
with, Jody. She was incredibly helpful. So internally at DNR, I think we've, you know, because the council approved and wanted to move forward with this legislative breakfast, that's where we've been putting our energy. And like Jody said, if other groups are planning an offsite event, you are more than welcome to invite the council members. And, you know, I think many of them who were able to attend would love to attend. But in terms of a Forest Health Council like hosted event, I think we're going to stay with the breakfast, because also there's, you know, after talking with Julia, there's a lot that goes into this. She said she doesn't think it's possible yet to book the rooms for January of 2026, but she's putting me in contact with the two, with the folks who I would coordinate with to book the space. We will need a legislative sponsor, but I'm thinking because Senator Cutter is on the council, she would be happy to, just write her name on the application for us. It's going to involve, she talked me through the invitation process. We can deliver not handwritten, but paper invitations to all the legislators. And then there's follow-up emails. She's going to connect me with the caterer that she's used in the past for the breakfast. She talked about a couple different spaces that are available. And she recommended either Thursday or Friday because people are usually they're a little less crunched for time at that point and maybe have a little more time to wander and linger in the hallways. So she also recommended planning for around 100 to 120 people because staff will also be attending. So we've gone through some logistics, and she's going to be connecting me with the people, her contacts that really bring the event together.
Thank you. Mr. Morgan.
Awesome. Well, that's really helpful. I just wasn't sure. So that's very helpful and clarifying. So thanks.
Do you have any estimate at all right now what the cost would be?
No, but I've followed up with Julia to get the contact for the caterer and the space. I imagine the space is free, and I can probably get a real rough estimate from the caterer as soon as I get their contact information.
And Julia probably has,
Yeah.
cost for what they spent, because it's actually a larger group. Probably about the same amount of people that show up. And then also we want to make sure we think about if we're going to have storyboards and show pictures and some newspaper articles. I've been thinking about that, how we can print some of those things and have them in maps and things, and certain, like, I know you guys have that capability, but maybe the Forest Service has that capability. Maybe we have that capability to just cost, but I do know, I thought we wanted to make sure they had some visuals, and then we want to look at any small printed materials. We probably have some QR codes so they can go to the plan and look, and we might have the 30-year forest plan by then. And so we might want to have at least one hard copy there, or have the QR code. So just those kinds of things too, because it is educational. I thought that sometimes getting all that information takes time, and I'm more than willing to help with that. So, and that might be cost. Christina.
I'm happy to help, Commissioner, with materials and the informational sharing materials.
That's great. Mr. Morgan.
I can't speak for sure, but as a member of several industry groups, I can't speak for those groups, but the industry has had a long history of doing these kind of events in the past, and we plan to again in the future. But I would think very much that we would be interested in providing educational materials and participating in it. And I can't make that a categorical statement right now, but I would be surprised if they would not. And I would like to say at this time that we would like to participate in that. And so I think your suggestion of the offsite reception or whatever, that's fine, and we will probably go ahead with that. We did not do that this year, first time in a long time that we haven't, but we are definitely already making plans for next year. And so I think it will be in conjunction. I don't know whether it would be on the same date or earlier at the time or not, but I guess I'd like to be a placeholder here for any suggestions that you might have that we could provide materials or support for. Okay. Sure,
that's great. And I think that once we get a date and we can get that, then I think that also helps you all kind of look if you're planning something, I'll say how you could do that on the same day or the evening or close by. So Yeah, thanks for the question, Katie. We have made some progress. We're just waiting for when we can start finding a date and then trying to get schedules. And then I have a feeling that Julia has years of budgets for how much, and we could do breakfast burritos. Sometimes I just do bagels, coffee. I mean, it's a range, but usually if that's food is the lure, if we have decent food, they'll probably come. So just saying, and we're kind of something new because, the other ones are the kind of the same groups that come every year, and we'll be kind of the new group to talk to. So I think making a first impression is not that we haven't been in front of them, but this will be our first kind of educational thing. I think just thinking about that is what I've been thinking, because we'll have a lot of new legislators who still haven't really had this history and know. So I really want to target some of those newer legislators so they understand kind of the history and what's all going on. So anybody, any other thoughts? Okay, now on to federal policy. We have about 15 minutes left.
Okay, great. So we've been hearing in this committee over the last couple of years, challenges that implementers and partners are facing on the ground that would need some sort of federal policy shift or intervention or even just like practice. And so we've been asking the question, how can the Forest Health Council engage with or influence federal policy or Forest Service practices and things like that? So we've been talking with our Director of Federal, Affairs, and she's helped us come up with some ideas. And so Allison and I have put together a little list, like a menu of options, like what are some different ways that we could be engaging with federal policy and our federal legislators. We've run this list by Director Gibbs and also our Director of, I don't know, maybe it's Human Resources. And so there's some DNR oversight of this list. And we thought the next steps would be run it by this committee, see what this committee thinks, and then eventually also run it up to the council and see what the council thinks, if the council would like to, take up any of these federal engagement options. So I was just going to run through the options with you all and hear from you and get your perspective on, because there's still questions like, does the council have time for this? Do you want to do this? Is this something important to you? So this is really just a menu of options, sort of starting at the least lift, the smallest activation energy, and then ending with things that require more investment of the council's time. So the first is pretty simple, sharing the Forest Health Council annual report containing our legislative recommendations with the full Colorado delegation. And this would be pretty darn easy. We could have our Director of Federal Affairs share this with the delegation. So maybe I'll just pause after each one and let people say anything if they have any thoughts on it.
Can you repeat that again?
Yes. So the first option is to share the Forest Health Council annual report that contains our legislative recommendations with the Colorado delegation.
Kind of a no-brainer.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, that's a no-brainer. And I've already been doing that a little bit with
Great.
Congressman Magoo's. But I wanted to just say, when I was in his office, and I don't know if the others, I saw copies of some of the stuff that I've handed to him on his desk. So whether that, I'm assuming he's reading all of that, because he does take a lot of things, and we met with him in person. But when I was in DC, I was like, oh, that's the thing I gave him. And I know they do a lot of reading on the plane. So I would say that's definitely something we should do.
Okay, great. So the next one really
Is anyone
speaks-
opposed to that first? I see a lot of yeses. Anyone opposed? Okay, cool. One down.
Perfect. So yeah, no red flags. We will share that with then the full council in April. So the next one, I think, speaks to really the origin of this conversation. I know we were having we have partners show up all the time to give presentations and say they're running into challenges with stewardship agreements or NEPA permitting. And so this one really speaks to that. This is that the council provides informal feedback originating from implementers and stakeholders to the Colorado delegation. Bennett's office welcomes feedback on challenges that implementers and partners are encountering when doing forest health projects. And so this would be, if we hear a challenge in the committee, that we could move this probably through DNR, through our Director of Legislative Affairs or Federal Affairs, to the offices of our federal legislators.
Say that again, just because I'm trying to think about what this means.
Okay, so what this one would look like is if the committee or the council is consistently hearing challenges that implementers are facing in Colorado, or partners or nonprofits, the groups that are doing forest health work, if they're bumping into challenges with federal policy or the U.S. Forest Service, and the council or the committee wants to share those, that there could be a pathway drawn between the council and the things that we're hearing, and at least Senator Bennett's office. I think that is the congressman that DNR has a pretty clear line of communication with. So that's what we've been discussing so far. But I also imagine that our AD for federal policy could connect these ideas or challenges with our other federal legislators too.
I'll just say, I think that's important. I think if it's going to come from the Forest Health Council, probably if we're elevating anything, we should go to all of the things at once. But just so you know, I'm already doing some of that because I actually hand them local concerns from our NGOs and stuff. But I think that would be great to have a formal thing to hand directly to all of them to elevate that, or if it's a specific region. But usually if it's affecting one, I'm assuming it's affecting others. So, Mr. Morgan.
I don't know what point to interject this in here. I'm trying to follow, Courtney, your pyramid here that you're building. But generally, federal legislators, they gather information from a variety of sources. And if you want to get action, it really helps if they can get the same message from a variety of different groups and sources. And so at some point here, we're trying to achieve an end, we're trying to have a goal. And I think one message that we have to get to them is that finances are tight right now, money's tight, there's a lot of upheaval, there's a lot of unknown going on. But at the end of the day, our forests are dynamic. They're constantly dynamic, and they don't stop. And oftentimes, no activity or no management activity is usually the most aggressive and the most impactful thing that you can do. So it's kind of a pay me now or pay me later. And I think the message that we're working for as we go up this chain is that there's a lot of things that you can choose to do or not do legislatively or put resources into, but not pursuing a systematic management course for your forests is one that has huge costs later on. So it's not like you can't not address this year and it goes away. It doesn't go away. In fact, many times it gets worse. And so we have to have that message in front of them, and they need to hear that message from a variety of groups, which comes back to what you're talking about here and all the partners. If we get people anecdotal evidence that we bring to them that says this group was trying to do this and it hit a roadblock. And I think the other one that, in having dealt with the feds for a lot of years, a great deal of what the roadblocks you run into are actually policy. They tell you that it's law, but it's policy. and policies can be changed through the agencies. Obviously, the law takes legislative intervention in some form. But what also happens is they tend to often interpret policy as law when it actually isn't. So I think having that chain that you're discussing right now up there to get some determinations, there's a lot of these roadblocks. When you really get down and challenge them, they say, well, no, that's actually a policy at this level or that level. And I think that that would be very helpful. But I also think you need to get that message. They will need to get that message from a variety of different sources. Ours would be one, and we should reach out to any partners that could bring that message to them from a different channel. When they start hearing the same problem and the same message from a variety of different sources, they're more likely to act. I didn't mean to take that much time, but I've been thinking about this quite a bit as I was listening in here.
So I think you're correct, Mr. Morgan, about hearing the same message multiple times from different sources and having that aligned. And I also think we heard this a lot through February and March from our federal partners. I mean, we have spelled out, we spent so much time just getting the numbers and how the short term, the long term, and all the different effects and the money and what it was going to do. And then we also had stories, like examples of why. And so I think, you know, you can bring all these policies and numbers, but if you, like you said, we have those presentations, we bring them examples of why, what this is happening and the consequences. That seems to really make an impression. So I think it's got to be all of that. And the other thought I had, just really quickly, we have other partner agencies like these Association of Counties, maybe other agencies that we have resolutions, like I talked about that NEPA one. I've always been wanting to write a national resolution to have approved to put into policy, because then those lobbyists also go and advocate for those positions. And so if there's one that we think is really like the NEPA or something, that I could always take a piece of that and get like New Mexico and other Western states, and we could write this resolution. And then that would be also another agency organization, whether it's American Foresters or anyone, we could try to see if we can reach out to some of those agencies to be a united voice to push on that. So just another idea that if that we're talking about the same messaging, we could get that through like these other national organizations that have paid people in the hallways all the time. And so I just think that's something to think about as well. So we have a few more minutes. I don't know how long your list is, Courtney, but Katie, quick question, but great conversation, Mr. Morgan. Katie, real quick, so we can get through the whole list.
Yeah, sorry. I was just gonna also say, I think as we think through this, it would be great to leverage like everybody's different expertise on this council, because I feel like, you know, it's one thing for DNR to always go to Nagoose, which is awesome. But I bet there are also like other industries or people represented on this council who have connections with more diverse array of, you know, federal council members and congressmen and women. So just wanted to throw that out there, if we can all kind of think through like what connections our own organizations might have or our own industries might have, and we could use that to our benefit too. That's all.
Also remember, we have to look at who's on what committee. And so I think Congresswoman Boebert and Congressman Nagoose are on the Natural Resources Committee. So we also have to leverage who's on what committee to get some of that work done. So just sharing that. So Courtney, what's your next one?
Yeah, and we can also talk about this at the next meeting. I'm realizing there's another meeting before the full council gets together. But the next one is also quite simple, and this is that we invite members of Congress staff to participate and present at the Forest Health Council meeting on legislative policy that affects forest health, federal policy, that affects forest health. And Dan, Director Gibbs, said that this is something that happened in the previous iterations of this council. So
yeah, and I
bring that back.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. And I do think when we met at that first meeting in person in Larimer, didn't we have one of Senator Bennett's staffer come and sit in the audience and listen for a little bit? I think they did.
I'm not familiar with Bennett's staff, so
I think he did. I think because I invited some of them to come and listen to the council, and I think he did come for a while. So I do think that's a great one. Anybody opposed to that? Thumbs up. Okay. Mr. Morgan.
Real quick, timber industry groups have always done that. We usually have representatives and briefings from the senatorial staff, and they're usually quite used to doing that. So I think that would be a great choice.
Great.
Thank you.
And the last two are connected, and they are related to the council providing feedback on proposed legislation. And I'll do my best to explain this one. Federal policy is not my forte, but as you know, the Farm Bill or the Fix Our Forests Act, things like that are being discussed. There could be an opportunity for the Forest Health Council to provide feedback on that legislation. And so there's both formal feedback and there's informal feedback. And what we discussed that if the council were to provide formal feedback, that would need to be something that happens at a full Forest Health Council meeting. So the timing of that working out is a little unlikely, but perhaps that would be an option. And perhaps at one point the stars do align and the council does meet at a time when they're able to provide formal feedback on a piece of federal legislation. So that's one option. The idea of providing informal feedback is also an option because the timing might not work out. And we explored this option with Director Gibbs and people at DNR, and they think that if the full council is not able to come together and agree on informal feedback, that this is something that individual council members could do on their own. So it kind of seems like the two options is if the full council can get together, they can provide official feedback on bills. And if they, if the timing doesn't work out, that there could still be a conversation here in the legislative committee and that any of you would be welcome to provide that feedback. So I think that option would really affect the legislative committee. If you would like to have federal legislation on your agenda, that's something that could be considered.
So right off the bat, I'll say when I, because we did strive to meet with a variety of folks. We met with, like I said, I met with one-on-one with Congresswoman Boebert, Evans, Neguse, Crow, Pedersen. I met with all of them one-on-one the last few weeks and 2 months. And I just want to say Congresswoman Boebert was very excited about a forest health bill that she was running. And that brought my attention. I was like, what? And what is it? And I'm still getting some of the details, but I do think it's something we might have some concerns about. So I do think this is something I've been looking and doing individually as a commissioner, but I think that would have some pretty good, would draw more attention to have her think, listen, because there's a larger group. But I do think there was some concerns with that bill. So I think asking questions or providing input or suggestions that that is going to add some things to our agenda. And I would probably want to make sure whatever we do is kind of vetted through, we might want to have another step of layer of looking at how those recommendations are made or how they're worded. And so, but I do think that could be important, especially with some of these bills that could be maybe adding some challenges because I'm not sure. One of them was based on all the science and data that we use here in Colorado. That's how I'll word that. So anybody opposed to that, Christina?
Oh, I'm not opposed. I'll try to keep this very quick. It's more of a question for Lacey's time and federal affairs with DNR. So just wanted to throw that out there that I think it's a great idea, but just want to be mindful that it may take some of Lacey's time. So, but comfortable to support whatever you all are comfortable with. Thanks.
Yeah, I think that's a great point because that would take a little more staff capacity and time to discuss because I think we'd have to be a few more steps to refine and make sure. But I think if it's something, a big point or big issue, I don't think we want to jump in on everything, but if there's one that really rises to the level of taking action, I think I want to make sure we're not trying to jump in on all legislation because then we could be really taking away from kind of our other work. But I think that there's one that really is a big point that I think this could be something we could explore. We don't have, and it's not saying we have to do this. We could just choose to do this, right?
I think that's just right, Jody, that this is not, we're not creating a mandate or like a new action list for the committee or for the council. I think, and we're taking our time just to understand what's on the menu, what do people feel comfortable with. And then I think we have lots of time, over the next year to figure out what actually feels right for engagement.
Pat, and then we're out of time, but go ahead, Pat.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I like the idea. I think that Lacey probably has a pretty good feel for the bills that are going to impact Colorado that she's watching, right? So she's like a coarse or fine filter. The rest of us are coarse filters because I'm guilty of throwing a whole bunch of federal legislation at you as well. But I think bringing an awareness to the committee of what's out there would be good because it is going to affect state legislation as well. And I apologize for putting us over time.
No, you're fine. We had some great discussion. So I think that's great. We got through your list, and I think it sounds like everyone's kind of comfortable with most of it, but we have some caution or some more questions about the last two. Does that sound, everybody thumbs up? Does that sound like a good reflection? Okay, so we won't really cover next steps. We know we're going to have this other meeting. Oh, Julie, go ahead.
No, sorry. Wrong emoji.
Oh, okay, you're good with that. So, so we have our next meeting on the 18th. We'll have some things to look at and then look for the details for being in person. I'm sorry I won't be able to be there. I don't think I've missed one yet, so I'm kind of bummed, but we'll see you all on the 18th. And in the meantime, enjoy this. I don't know about you, but I have big flakes outside, so enjoy this wonderful weather. We need the moisture. So great to see all of you. Happy Friday. And thank you, Courtney and Allison, as always, for all the work you do. And thank you all for being here. Have a great, I'll take a motion to adjourn, please.
I'll move to adjourn.
There's a first and a second. Is there anyone opposed?
Oh,
Okay,
I'm out here for a while.
it would be fun. We could talk about lots of things. All right, we're adjourned. Have a great weekend, everyone. Take care.
See you all.
Great weekend.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.